Alright, what is up, guys? So I wanted to go over some of the stocks that I'm looking into, as far as what areas I'm looking into for a perfect buy. Um, it won't be perfect, obviously, but in my eyes, it's a better opportunity. When it comes out to trading, I like to look at special key levels or areas that you can kind of base off of. Instead of just buying randomly, like here in the middle of the chart, I like to look at areas of potential better risk to reward. So just to start off, we're going to look into Tesla. This is Tesla on the daily time frame. So each candlestick represents a day of price action. Um, Basically, you guys can see that we obviously had a nice little rally. We finally broke out, and then we obviously pushed into new highs at the time, and we couldn't break above these all-time highs, which was at 488. If you actually look on the 4-hour time frame, it looks a little bit more price action. You guys can see that we were kind of, so after this big rally, let me just bring this up real quick. So yeah, after this big rally, right, we were kind of just messing around here, kind of balanced in this range, and we weren't able to break above. We actually were able to break below and stay below, right? So after we broke around this price range, we were kind of just tagging along and rejecting that area. So whenever I see that, I obviously see that sellers are in control in the moment, right? For me, as far as where the market might go, obviously it all depends on the crypto market right now. A lot of that is heavily weighted on the crypto market, also on Nvidia, right? A bunch of AI stuff, So I do believe that that also has a lot to do with what's going on in the price in the market right now. But for me, I would ultimately like for Tesla to pull back into this 367, 370 area, just for me to possibly take it long. As of now, I don't have any shares of Tesla. I actually bought Tesla here at 232 down here, on the April lows after the tariff news, and I actually did sell at the I think it was the 455s, and I got all out of my position. Now I want to get back into the Tesla trade, but obviously, like I said, I'm not gonna get into this trade unless we come down into this area. The reason why is because of this breakout. Every time a stock or something breaks out aggressively like the way it did, most of the time we come back and test this area where we broke out of, right? It's kind of just simple textbook price action. So obviously, if there's true buyers here that made this move all the way to the highs, the buyer should be able to defend this price range, right? So the thing I'm going to look at for Tesla is if we come back down into this area and we're defending, you see kind of price action moving sideways, a dip down, and then we get bought back up. That's something that I'm willing to take around this price range, obviously targeting these levels to the upside. Now, as far as those short term right now though, if we're actually able to move above, I'd say the four, I guess you could say move back above into the price range, right? Back into this area right here and hold. That would also be possibly bullish for me. Like I said, the last two times we actually tried, we rejected. You guys can kind of see on the shorter time frame, you'll be able to see this better. On the 5-minute, you guys can see there's a bunch of lines here now. So yeah, you guys can see that we attempted to go up, right? But Tesla got rejected right away. So obviously for us, it's kind of weakness, right? You guys can see that we tried and we rejected. So if we come back up here again, and this time we're actually holding, maybe making a new high, holding, then that's obviously strong, a strong indication for the buyers that they're in control, and this might, want to test the upside levels. But like I said, it already depends on also how the markets are reacting. If crypto is going down, honestly, I don't see this going higher. I do believe that Bitcoin at the moment, a lot of the crypto, especially just Bitcoin for the most part, it has a lot to do with what's going on right now, why the markets are pulling back. Generally when it comes to Thanksgiving, we tend to have a bullish price action for the past few years, like a strong sentiment towards the upside. So we're gonna go ahead and wait and see. So that's kind of my I guess my idea for Tesla. Another one that I'm watching right now is Meta. Now Meta I actually did buy on the April lows as well. I bought at 504 down here. We obviously rallied, and then now we're pulling back down. We're actually down 25-30%. Yeah, we're down around 26% from the highs, so around $206 per share. I'm still in profit, but I actually bought more shares today. Now my average went up to, I believe, 568, something like that, around here. So that's another, like I said, stock that I'm looking to buy more shares into. I was already in at these lows, and now my average in is a little bit higher now, which I don't mind. Like I said, I'm willing to buy good companies, good stocks that won't obviously be like penny stocks where you lose a lot of money and you end up being in the red forever. And when you buy a good quality companies, honestly, it's very easy to manage your positions because you're not really worried about, oh, what if I lose all my money. You also have to understand when it comes down to trading and investing into the stock market, you can't put all your money at once, right? Let's say the market was right here. Let's say Meta was right here, and I'm like, oh, it's at 7:30. I'm gonna put all my $10,000 into this trade to target the highs. And then boom, what happens now? You're down, from the 7:30s. Let's just say you're down 20% on your position, and now you don't have money to buy more at the lows to average down your price. That's why it's important to buy, little by little, dollar cost averaging in, and not going in with all your money into one single stock and saying fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and make a lot of money on the way up. So that's why it's important to buy little by little. Right here, I only bought 5 shares before. I bought another 5 shares right now, so now I'm only in with 10 shares total, which is still a little bit for the account that I have. But like I said, I just rather play it safe. I don't mind, not making a shit ton of money right now. I'd rather be safe with my money, invest little by little, just in case we do decide to drop lower. The area that I'm looking into is actually the trend line that I have here. I'm already on the daily time frame. What am I doing? So yeah, this is the trend line that I have, right? So we tested it right here. So there's a chance, like I said, we don't know what the hell's gonna happen, but if we do come back down and we come test this trend line, I will definitely buy more depending on the price action. If we break this trend line and start rejecting, then obviously that's not a good sign for the bulls. It's not a good sign for the buyers. So definitely that's something that I'm gonna be looking out for, as well as there's a gap right here that obviously hasn't been closed. There's a chance we might come down here and close this gap that we made. And like I said, that's another area that I'll be looking to buy. Another area is also right here, another gap here. So there's definitely a lot of areas that I'm looking to buy, but this is the cool thing about investing and doing long term. When it comes down to this, you gotta understand, don't buy at random levels at prices where you're like, oh my god, if I don't buy here, I'm gonna miss out. That's something that I learned the hard way, that you have to understand. You have to buy at key areas, levels that are obviously that makes sense. Don't buy in the middle of nonsense. If it makes sense for you and you have a strategy that works for you, then obviously go ahead and do that. But for me, like for example, this is Meta on the 15-minute time frame. You guys can see that we've been kind of balancing between these two areas, right? The green area is the buyers, the red area is the sellers. So as of now, it's kind of just balancing, right? It's balancing. We're waiting for a move. At the moment, we don't know what's gonna happen. It can come down and then break to the downside, or it can possibly finally break above, hold, and then now we can start pushing higher. So that's the reason why I bought more shares today. I bought 5 at this level here. When I seen it was at the demand, I seen that it was holding, I bought here at the 586s, and I'm just gonna let it ride. I mean, obviously I'm hoping that it goes higher, but like I said, we all have to depend on what happens with crypto, Nvidia. If we start seeing push prices higher, that's definitely something that I'm willing to add on the way up as well. So yeah, this is kind of what we're seeing in a 15-minute time frame. In order for us to see a push higher on Meta, I want us to break above the 606s, hold above, maybe see some strong buyers instead of seeing a rejection like we did here, and then we can move to the upside and go to the higher spots. Now to spot for levels, the way that I look at it is just kind of seeing simple price action, either supply or demand zones like we have here, or areas where you kind of see there's aggressive sellers. For example, right here, this is an area where obviously I kind of see the selling happen here. So if I was, let's just say, doing a short-term trade, if I see Meta go above the supply zone, I see it holding, I would possibly get into a long, targeting the next area of where I see strong sellers, which happens to be here at the 628s. And yeah, there's a lot of ways to invest, to be honest. There's investing long term like I have. There's option calls where you can obviously bet that we're gonna go to a certain price range, and that's a little bit more riskier. That's a little bit more professional side. I feel like that's something that you have to do once you have more experience. But nevertheless, like I said, this is also a good option. But yeah, guys, so that's the two stocks that I'm looking at: Meta, Tesla. Another one I would say is AMD. I mean, obviously, AMD and Nvidia are the top two AI. I also bought. Oh my God, the fuck am I saying? I also bought AMD at 88 at the April lows, and this I actually haven't averaged in yet because I do think there's a chance we close this big ass gap here. Um, we close this gap and then possibly go back to the upside. So at this moment, I'm not gonna add anything yet. I'm gonna go ahead and wait and see what happens. But this is definitely a big gap that I think we might close before we move to the upside. I have this area down here at the 149s that I'm willing to buy as well because we supported this a few times. So there's been buyers here that have been defending this area. Nvidia as well. I also buy. Why do I keep saying the fucking bat, bro? It's like the fuck. Do I want to go play baseball or some shit? I also bought down here. I bought the 104s, I believe. Still haven't averaged in yet. I did like this area here. Let's see right here. Just because it was a previous resistance, we couldn't break above, went back down, finally went above. We're kind of trading below it. We found a rally, bounce above it, and now we're kind of trading below it now, right? So it's kind of like iffy, obviously with the market weakness, it doesn't really look good on the daily time frame. Another area you can see is possibly this also. So, that's a good area that we'll possibly buy if we come back down here. At the 165 price range, I will possibly buy more just because we're at a support. Or if we go above it and start holding, I'll probably average in more just because, like I said, it really all depends on the price action in the coming weeks. So that's Nvidia, AMD, Bitcoin. I don't think I have anything for Bitcoin right now at this moment. The only thing I have was just this big trend line that I had. Just the weekly time frame, you guys can kind of see. Look, it doesn't really look that clean on the weekly time frame. We're gonna go to the daily. So on the daily time frame, you guys can kind of see that we're kind of pushing, defending this area. Doesn't look as clean, to be honest, so I wouldn't really put all my faith on this trend line. But I do see that Bitcoin is trying to hold this area. The next area that I would obviously like to buy on Bitcoin and see is how we react here. Same thing, we rejected here a few times. It doesn't look as clean, but once you kind of have a little zone, you guys can see this area where it's rejecting, right? We kind of push higher, couldn't break above the 72k, went back down, couldn't break above again, tested it one more time, couldn't break again. Then we tested the trend line, got enough buyers to finally break above this, and we pushed even higher, and that's ultimately made the 125k all-time highs. So same thing like the Tesla trade. You guys see this aggressive buyer. We pulled back, almost tested it again, and then we just rallied. So for me, the next key area that I have on Bitcoin is honestly this price range right here, the 73k. So if Bitcoin comes back down here, I see it defending. To be honest, that would be a good sign for us to possibly purchase crypto. At least for me, I would possibly buy a Bitcoin or MSTR, which is obviously the stock that follows kind of crypto at the moment. Well, Bitcoin specifically. This company has the most Bitcoin in the world, I believe. That's what I heard. So possibly buying shares of this once we reach the support line and I see good reaction, I would possibly buy here. This is MSTR. So if Bitcoin moves higher, this will move higher as well. And you guys can see this. Okay, so both of them are on the daily time frame, right? So let's look at this level here. So you can see that this high right here on MSTR on the right hand side. Let me just put it here. Right, this high is equivalent to this high, so which is the 125,000, right? 125,000 on crypto. Holy fuck, that's big as fuck. Not sure why it's not deleting. There you go. So yeah, this high right here matches on my crosshair. You guys can see it matches this one, right? So the 361. So if Bitcoin were to ever get back to its all-time highs, which is 125k, MSTR would reach 365, right? So just based on where we're at from the chart, from here all the way to the highs, it's 113% return of your money, right? So we can make a plan that, you know what, instead of me buying one Bitcoin, which is right now 84K, I can buy, you know, 10,000 shares or 1,000 shares of MSTR. I'm saving more money. I'm able to buy more shares, and at the same time, I'm able to afford more, right? Bitcoin, if it goes all the way up back to its highs, is only gonna make a 50% return, right? As to where if you buy MSTR, you're gonna be making over 100%. So this is the same thing. Like I said, this is just a stock that has a lot of Bitcoin, and they're very. I do believe that if Bitcoin becomes green again and it starts pushing higher, I think MSTR is gonna outperform Bitcoin. Just based on the returns, 100% to 50%. Obviously, it's a double return. So yeah, that's something that I'm gonna be watching as far as that goes. And that's about it. That's all I have for now for today. Like I said, this is the stuff that I'm watching. If there's any other stocks you guys want me to go over, just DM me on Discord or DM me, comment below on the YouTube video. And I'll be posting more throughout the week, my overview. When it comes up to trading, just keep it simple, Don't go all in, try to buy the dip and go full port. Be smart about your money. Obviously, the market is random. The market is made for us to lose money, so they're going to do anything to mess us retail traders, right? So we got to obviously play like the big boys and think like them instead of just trying to full pour and make money and become rich over time. This is obviously not gambling, right? If you're gambling, you don't know what you're doing, obviously that's on you. But if you have a strategy that works, just stick to that. And that's something that I'm looking at right now. I'm just, like I said, I'm just investing long term, little by little. I'm not forcing any trades. I'm just waiting for my key areas, being patient, and that's about it. Just take it day by day. So yeah, guys, if you guys have any other questions, just DM me on Discord, Instagram, or you want to comment on YouTube. This is, like I said, something I'm gonna start doing more, just overviews and people that want to invest for long term, so you guys can kind of get used to how to look at charts differently instead of just listening to someone to buy the dip right now. You have to have a reason why you're buying. Yes, it's at a discount, but are you buying at a good price, or are you buying in a random ass area where this could be lower, or it's not a good area of support or whatever? That's why I like to purchase stocks, but not just because they're at a discount, but because they're at key areas. So in this example, Bitcoin, if it comes back down here, I'm not buying randomly. I'm buying for a reason. I have a thesis. I have, like I said, multiple confirmations at the time, right? And yeah, that's how it's gonna go. So same thing with Tesla. I'm gonna put it back here. I'm gonna make a little zone. Same thing, breakout. So we come back down here and we hold. Best believe I'm gonna be buying shares. I'm calling it out first right here. If we come down here, I'm definitely gonna be super confident in buying more shares, adding to my long-term position, which, like I said, I don't have any at the moment, but I will be adding some, and that'll be it. So thank you guys for watching, and have a good weekend.